I want to take a quick second to talk to anybody watching this that's interested in starting a government contracting business or starting a new profession in government contracting. The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video. All right. We're live now. How's everyone doing today? Rick Howard, GovClose, and we're going to talk about opportunities that are not posted on SAM.gov, how to find them, the increasing number of these that we're going to expect to see this year for a few big changes that are happening in the acquisitions process, and how you can take advantage of them, and not just take advantage of them, but you don't want to get left in the dust, right? Some of these new methods that are being introduced for government contracting. Let me move my mic over here. By the way, let me know if you can or cannot hear me in the comments. Hey, Brett. Hey, Tanvir. Yeah. Some of these new methods aren't necessarily new. People just don't know about them. And, selling to the government makes changes on how they buy all the time. So you always have to stay abreast of what's going on. This is why relationships matter. This is why we've got to spend so much time cultivating the relationship with the program managers, talking with the government people, because there are people on the other side. They're buying what we sell. But now, especially with this administration, we're looking at acquisitions reform, and we're looking at policies that are being put in place. And these policies can take some time to enact, which is probably a good thing, because some of these policies are going to change the way we sell to the government, or might change the way you sell to the government, right? Depending. So let's talk about those, right? So a couple of these changes, and I've done videos on this. We can bring up some of them here while we're live. Other transaction authority is one of those policies that's being pushed by SecDef, specifically for software, but I'm expecting to see other transaction authority and maybe some other faster methods introduced to the way the government makes purchases. The other big thing is that SecDef signed SecDef signed the memo for OTA, but the president signed an executive order basically talking about using GSA more as the centralized procurement agency, right? Taking over things like simple services, products, and whatnot. Now we can get into exactly what, hold on, my Alexa's yelling at me. Alexa off. Alexa runs my life, as a lot of you guys know. She never listens to me. The women in my life don't listen to me. I had to tell her a couple of times. So I'm just kidding. But other transaction authority, GSA. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how I can find some of these opportunities, right? And some other areas that you can look at, not SAM.gov. We're not looking at SAM.gov at all today. We are going to be looking at different areas for you to find some of these opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit about what the presidential executive order could mean. What do I think Doge is going to do, by the way? I'm getting calls from reporters now asking me about acquisitions reform and what I think should be done and where do we think things are going. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I've got some ideas. And if you guys have ideas and you want to see, hey, Rick, this is what I think we could be looking at potentially for acquisitions reform, that type of thing. Put it down in the comments. How can we make things faster? How can we make things go a little bit smoother? And I will incorporate your comments into the people that I'm talking to. Let's see here. Tanvir is starting off with a question. Let's see here. We support government contractors with comprehensive proposal development, RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, BPAs, and specialized cleared recruitment. Let's connect and collaborate. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tanvir. And so if anyone wants to connect with Tanvir, you can go onto LinkedIn. I think that's where She is probably seeing us right now. All right. And let's see here for everybody else that is on, just let me know in the chat if you are having any issues with hearing me or seeing what's going on as we move into OTA. I'm going to give you a quick, we did a great, by the way, we did a great interview with Chelsea Maggot that was on YouTube. She's an OTA. She like focuses on that. She was one of the first guests on our podcast a couple of years ago. By the way, if you're not subscribed to our podcast, check it out. Check it out. Close any of the major platforms, Spotify, iTunes, etc. But let's just let's look at just the first clip of that as I kind of set us up to start looking at the other transaction authority.
And more prevalent. It's something that you have to be able to stay relevant. Government has not been exposed to a lot of things in life. They just haven't contracted before, or they have not been able to buy before. That's out there.
Is OTA not for a certain type of company? Who is this not for?
I don't want to say it's not for any specific type of company. You will still find large contractors on other transaction consortium. And the reason I say that is because OTs are really truly designed to foster small business and non-traditional company engagement. It really does kind of give them the opportunity to flourish alongside and flourish with the help of some of those larger, typically seen as too much competition.
What do you think the future of this could be or could look like if you're going to speculate over the next year or two?
I think it's going.
All right, so that's just the beginning. You can check that full YouTube video out when you're ready. But what we're talking about through, and that's an hour-long video. So, whenever you want to, put yourself to sleep, turn that on. Actually, Chelsea's very energetic and entertaining. So listening to her talk OTA is going to set you up for kind of understanding what the playing field looks like going after some of these opportunities. Why does OTA even exist? And now what SecDef signed into place really focused on software without having to review the memo for you guys again and software development. But we're going to be looking at some faster mechanisms and some acquisitions reform, I think, in addition to that. So let's, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you kind of like the first places I would look for these opportunities, which for the most part, you're not going to see them on SAM.gov, right? So when I say unposted, we need to understand where we're going and what some of these are here. Hold on, I get some other questions. How do we reach out to subcontractors in vicinity we are not in? Oh, that's pretty simple. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong, Kahind, but if you're reaching out to a subcontractor, and I'll hit questions as we're going through here, but it doesn't matter. Like for me, I don't even care if they're in the same area as me. What I'm looking for is, first of all, I guess I would need to understand is if the question says we're reaching out to subcontractors, if I'm a subcontractor and I'm reaching out to primes, or if I'm a prime and I'm reaching out to subcontractors, probably going to work the same way. I want to find people or companies that have already dealt with the government that are going to have a little bit of past performance to increase my credibility. If I'm going after an opportunity, I'll use USA Spending to find them. And then I'll just go to LinkedIn and reach out. That's typically the way I would do it. Unless I have an email. If I have an email for them, go to the company website. That's another way. But that is what I would do. Let's take a look at my screen here. All right. See my big system error screen? All right. I'm going to just click on this. Now, I just typed in OTA consortia, other transaction authority. So this is going to give me a list of basically websites that are going to have opportunities on them for other transaction authority, if this even opens up. And I know my screen here is kind of a mess. While it's thinking about it, we can check on some of the other comments here. Oh, Brett, thanks. Chelsea video is great. Yeah, no, she is great. I encourage all you guys to reach out to her on LinkedIn. All right, this list probably doesn't want to come up here. So essentially what I'm trying to do, and we'll see later on if I can bring up the website, is bring up a other transaction authority list. There's other places. I'm going to find one. And you can go to these websites, and essentially most of them you have to join. The big picture is typically $250, $500 for a company to join these consortiums. And then they're going to have opportunities that come out on there for OTA, which is a much faster way that the government can buy. And that's really what you need to know. And by the way, the level of effort you have to put in up front sometimes is as little as writing a memo or like a one-page document. We go over that in the video, in the Chelsea video, but for you guys, I think that's really important, right? Because now instead of having to, I talk a lot about having to find sources sought way early in the market research phase. Now I'm spending 6 months. I'm writing a sources sought response. I'm meeting with the government. Then there's a proposal, and that's excruciating usually to put together for those of you that have written proposals. And then you win, you don't win. With OTA, it can be much faster. It could be 500 words or less. Send it in, and then they'll tell you, hey, we think that what you're trying to do, the software, the technology, the innovation that you're recommending, we like it. Now give us a proposal. Chelsea was saying she's won contracts, or at least she has clients that have won contracts just off of a small memo like that versus having to put one of those excruciating proposals together here. I found another list, by the way, that we can use for other transactions. So let's take a look at that right now. I'll share my screen here again. All right. I think this is the MITRE list. MITRE is basically an FFRDC. For those of you not familiar, but that doesn't matter. This is just listing different consortiums, right? So I just wanted to give you an idea of what consortiums are and why I'm looking at these for something called OTA, which we're going to see increased use of. So if I click on this one, I should eventually get, here we go, here's a consortium. And now you can join a consortium. Usually now they're going to tell me how to join right there. Here it's going to talk business opportunities. Now each one's different, right? So each one, you might have this one's countering weapons of mass destruction. Some are on cybersecurity. Some are on, healthcare related things. So it really just depends. Really depends on what you're interested in or what your company does what it sells as far as which consortium that you're going to be looking at joining. So bottom line, there's probably a few that would apply to you or the business you work for. This is how you might do that. Now, it has some, you can see for this one's good actually, right? It has some upcoming events that I could go to. They have a one-pager. What about business opportunities? Sometimes, even if you're not a member, you can see the opportunities. Okay, and here some of them are. Now, again, this is around weapons of mass destruction, but it's giving me a requiring office and point of contact. Again, very important to talk to these people, right? To talk to the point of contact, because you want to know, talking to the point of contact can tell you if you're wasting your time, if this is something that aligns with the type of thing that you're selling. And it could also give you way more information than is going to be available. The same thing's true for other transaction authority, which we're looking at now, as to, a source sought or a regular standard RFP that comes out. If I've talked to the point of contact during a phase that I'm allowed to do that, I'm probably going to have a lot more information than a company that's coming in blind. It's hard to squeeze in all of the data points into one of these solicitations. The government's busy just like you are. So, there might be a solicitation in there that calls for one of these, countering weapons of mass destruction things, but then you talk to the point of contact and you realize that, this is actually going to be used on naval ships, or, hey, this is actually going to be used at a R&D facility in New Hampshire. And that could greatly change the types of things that you're putting into your request or into your white paper. So again, just taking a look at a list of those things here. And we get some other questions. What do we get here? How do I get to funds already deposited? It tells me, but won't let me. Jocelyn, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Are you on contract with the government and it says it deposited funds in your account? Not really sure. But a good point to all this is that the real work starts when you're on contract with the government, right? So we talk a ton about how to get your contracts, the sales process. But once you're on contract with the government, you'll see lots of things can happen there, right? Good and bad, that you're going to have to work through. So, and by the way, we handle all those questions as well. We have a lot of great people, great associates that work with us, great people in the GovClose certification program. If you haven't, if you're not aware of it, that have been trained, that answer these questions, that work with companies. So, and by the way, I would love to see any of you in there as well. Okay, let's take a look here. Let's see here. Oh, Tashana. Hey, Tashana, how's it going? Glad you're in. Man, we got a few people from LinkedIn here today. That's good stuff. Most of the comments from LinkedIn. That's a shift. Usually we're getting most of our comments from YouTube. So we got a few people in the GovClose program actually as well. So really cool. Let's check out one more consortium just to kind of give you a sample, right? I'm going to go back. Again, I just typed in list of OTA consortiums into Google and lists just started popping up. Typically I use a list by Deltek because it's got, I don't know, 50 of them on there or something. But, and by the way, if anyone knows of a centralized place aside from the list I'm using, go ahead and let me know. But again, this list is from MITRE. So you can get a list of these consortiums from a lot of different places. The fact that this is from MITRE tells me it's probably going to be a list kind of caged towards the types of things that MITRE works on. I've done a lot of work with those guys, a lot of good people at MITRE. Here's the Defense Electronics Consortium, Defense Industrial Base Consortium. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay, so again, very standard, right? Kind of looks like the other ones. We have a place here for membership. It's going to tell you how to join. Probably costs $250, $500, I would imagine. Sometimes they don't. It's going to tell you the current members too. That can tell you a lot. Let's click on that. Who's a member of this consortium? Probably a lot of people. Okay. And by the way, you can see here, they're talking about traditional versus non-traditional. And traditional, well, I was going to say non-traditional, I usually think of as small and traditional as large, but you have some non-traditionals that are considered large here. And you have a ton of different companies. I don't want to get caught up in that, just to show you that. So they have 1,100 members in there, right? But if you're not a member, are you actively looking for the other transaction solicitations, right? Like, what are you missing by not going to these types of websites and looking for opportunities? Let's see here. Okay, so now it's telling me active solicitation. So I don't really see anything under active. Upcoming, it doesn't have one. So this is something that I would really look at, especially if they want you to pay to be in here, especially if you're a small business, right? If you're a small business and $500 is steep for you to join, I would be very careful about the consortium I join, because I would want to know, like, how many of these solicitations are actually coming out, right? I worked for a software company, and we joined a consortium, and all of a sudden the solicitations weren't there, right? Some of these have a ton. Some of them just have a couple every now and then. So again, it's kind of your due diligence to look for these opportunities. I wonder if this actually has, like what I'm sure it does. The process is what I was talking about for actually applying, because I'd like to know like some of the different here. What happens after I submit a white paper? So that tells me that there's some type of white paper that gets submitted. So they do a compliance screen in 1 day. Within 1 day of the due date, correct non-compliance, the government will then perform technical evaluations, submit feedback, and released with bids. If selected for award, you will work with the government technical team to finalize your SAL. Okay, I mean, that's kind of cool. Much faster process to go in and look at some of these consortium. Let's go back to, hold on, I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Yep. Okay, so Christina. Yep, no, Chelsea knows a lot, especially about OTA. I've seen Capture 411. I have it. Launch Friday as a marketplace for historical solicitation documents. Great place to do capture as well as contribute to the database and create a revenue stream. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out, Christina. I haven't looked at that yet. It's called Capture 411. Let me see if it comes up now, actually. Guys, this is how it's done, right? I mean, if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, expect the same results, right? But if you're, when you come to a place like this where you have professionals, a lot of different people that are working in the public sector, there's so much out there. There's so many websites. There's so many different ways the government can buy that, you really need to spend a little bit of time looking at what is going to work for you. Capture 411, the marketplace for bid intelligence. I think this is it. Let's take a look at it. All right, join the database of hard to get legacy RFPs and save time researching and building your pipeline. Okay. Actually, you know what? So this is cool. And it's a question that I get, and it's a question I've had, right? So meaning if I see a contract that was awarded, right? I'm thinking this is where what this website's doing. If I'm looking at acquisitions forecasts, which we're going to take a look at a little bit later. And it's a way that I do identify leads for clients that we work with. So let's say I find a software contract, let's say a services contract that is going to be up for rebid, I think, in the next 6 months, right? It could be for anything, right? It could be for software services, building services, janitorial services, anything like that. And if I want to find the original RFP, well, why would I want the original RFP? I would want the original RFP because I want to know what was that company put on contract to do. If I go on FPDS or USAspending.gov to find a contract or even an acquisitions forecast, it's going to give me very limited information. It might say janitorial services for, Hanscom Air Force Base building or something. It might not even say that much. It could say continuing software license for command and control, blah, 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 right? It might give you a sentence or two and that's it. For intelligence, I want to know a lot more. And I think what this is, and Christina, she says, happy to give you a tour. Thank you. It looks like I can potentially get some of these legacy RFPs, which can provide a lot of information. So I think that is really cool. I'll have to spend a little bit more time on that later on my own time, just checking it out, seeing what's going on there. And then I'll reach out to Christina if I've got more questions. I was just reading through some of the comments. Jocelyn saying, I think she's talking about some of her funding for a broad area announcement. Maybe Jocelyn, you might have to reach out to me separately. You can just email me, rick@dodcontract.com, and give me more information. I might be able to help you out there. All right. So we talked a little bit there about other transaction authority. What about GSA, guys? What's going on with GSA? Where do we think GSA is going from here? Here's a clip from a recent video that we did on YouTube, but we're going to jump into GSA. I had a really good conversation with somebody at GSA. We're going to be hearing from someone that formerly was in a senior position there at least in our coaching program on GovClose. And so they're going to go more in depth with that. Also, Chelsea's going to be in our GovClose coaching program. So for anybody on here that's in GovClose right now, you can expect to see both of them here. Check this out, and then we're going to talk about GSA. I want to hear what you guys think as well.
Business may not be able to sell to the U.S. government if you don't have a GSA schedule. President Trump just signed an executive order that could massively change how businesses of all sizes sell to federal agencies. And if you don't have a GSA schedule, you better pay attention. On March 20th, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order consolidating federal procurement for common goods and services in the General Service Administration. GSA is the General Services Administration. They control SAM.gov, for example, but many people think of them as not an agency, but a contract vehicle, or often referred to as GSA schedules. Executive order says it's time to return GSA to its original purpose, putting it back in the driver's seat as the federal government's main buyer for everyday products and services. Right now, companies can sell to any federal agency. Some federal agencies use GSA and some don't. For example, when I was a procurement officer for the United States Air Force, I never used GSA to make purchases from companies. I would put small businesses on contract for, say, cybersecurity services or software. We might be developing a technology, but you don't have to use GSA, or at least you didn't up to this point, to put those companies on contract. I had a procurement office, and my contracting officers and I, as a program manager.
All right. So that's a little bit about GSA. You guys could see, again, the full video on YouTube if you want to. I think it's in LinkedIn too, for those of you guys that are on LinkedIn. But yeah, what's going on with GSA, right? So there are some reporting dates where GSA, big picture, GSA working with federal agencies to figure out what the plan looks like, right? So now, simple services, products, I always tell clients, for instance, when we start selling to the government, or even a company that's been doing it for a while, I always start with, what is the data telling me? And that's the advantage we have selling to the government is all these contracts. There's a tremendous amount of data available publicly. So we can go in and see who's buying in the government, what agencies, what offices, how much they're buying, how many proposals come in per solicitation. We can see the mechanism they buy, right? And that means, are they using simplified acquisitions? Are they competing these, openly competing? Do they prefer set-asides? Are they using a GSA schedule? So, because a lot of companies and people have come to me and said, hey, Rick, I paid somebody 30 grand to help me get a GSA schedule, and I haven't won a single contract on it. And then we go and we look at the spending data. I'm like, well, the reason is GSA is only used on like 3% of federal purchases for what it is that you sell. So it's really important to understand what the landscape looks like. By the way, like the exact opposite can be true, like especially with things like hospital supplies, pharmaceuticals, like office stuff. We might go in and see that GSA is used in 80% of the purchasing. So it really depends on what it is you're selling. Now, with what we have just heard with GSA and the president's push to use GSA more, now I might be changing my tone a little bit, because especially if you fall into one of these categories that they want to use GSA for or increase the use. And this is why I'm changing my tone. GSA could take a year, through the application process just to get. So if you've been selling to a certain office and they've just been using a blanket purchase agreement or simplified acquisition, sole source, whatever it is, competing it, and they have to switch to start using GSA, well, you need to know that they're going to start using GSA. And if they do, and you don't have a schedule, you won't even know the opportunities are coming out, right? You would need a schedule or to partner with someone that did in order to keep that customer. So we have to approach this knowing that we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know how successful this is going to be. I would say for the most part, if GSA is used in what the government purchases, it's probably a good idea for you to get it as a backup, if nothing else. And if the government does utilize it a lot, you're going to need it, right? Got some other questions here, which we'll get to. Let's see here. And by the way, we cover GSA in depth, other transaction authority, selling to the government in GovClose program. If you guys want just to check out the syllabus, I'm going to drop it in the link here. And you can, and that's just, you can go in there and just put your email in and it would automatically get sent to you. So let's see. here. How do we start GSA? That is a great question. I have a GSA prep checklist that I've been sending out, but I'm going to bring it up here. Let's see here. In fact, let's just walk through it together. So if you're thinking about, hey, how do I get started with GSA? Here we go. All right. So, and I apologize. I know I have a bunch of like badges and stuff up here, but essentially what I've got on the screen is, I'll try to zoom in on it a little bit. I just typed GSA.gov into my browser. Okay. So I'm just going to walk through right with you guys, explore, sell to the government, learn about government contracting. So they're going to talk about, different contract opportunities, compete for a contract. Now, I'm assuming that where they're saying register your business, they're talking about SAM.gov. I'm assuming that when they get into certify a small business, they're talking about the different certifications like 8A, SDVOSB. We've talked extensively about the set asides. But become a schedule holder. I think, Kahinda, this is what we want to look at. Okay. It says how to apply to become a MAS schedule holder. By the way, there are still, even while it cuts, a lot of great people that work at GSA. And when I do have the GSA rep, even though he's coming into our GovClose program for coaching, but I'm going to do a YouTube video as well that will go much more in depth on this. But talking with them, understanding, and doing your own research, like looking at USA Spending, how much does the government utilize GSA right now in what you're selling, and based on what we're hearing, right, with what the president's saying, and then paying attention to what the agencies are doing, where are we going from here? Okay, complete these activities. Okay, so this is the roadmap. It says right here to getting your GSA schedule, or deciding if you need a GSA schedule, or even can get a GSA schedule. Now, I want to point out that there are some things in here that talk about like being in business for 2 years. There are prerequisites, but in government, just keep this in the back of your mind. In the federal government, most policy has gray area written into it. And, in the Air Force, at least, we always have a saying that there's a waiver for anything. So just because you see a parameter that you don't quite meet, that doesn't mean you're out. Okay. Just keep that in mind. There's a waiver for everything. Well, Rick said there's a waiver for everything. Got to ask, right? Who are you going to ask? Going to ask someone at GSA. So here it talks about the readiness assessment. It talks about, is it in your best interest? It says here, if your company's more than 2 years old, you still qualify for a startup springboard. You've got let's see here. So you got a new offer checklist. So there's a lot of information on here that you can go through. Hopefully that, in fact, I'm going to take this. I'm just going to put it right in the comments. There you go. Hopefully you can click on that, or at least cut and paste it. But that's this website. And it should give you a little bit of information on getting started with GSA, figuring out if it's right for you. I also have other videos out on GSA, so you can check those out. I'm going to stop sharing the screen here because that's not helping anyone right now. All right. We got some other questions in here. Any thoughts on what might happen to NASA SOUP? I don't even want to speculate on that. I think that, there is so much talk about acquisitions reform right now and how the government buys. And, especially things like cost plus fixed fee versus fixed price contracts. It's going to be interesting to see what they can actually change, right? Because the government contracting is so massive. In fact, I talked to a reporter just this morning, and he was asking me how would I change. Like eventually we got to, hey Rick, like how would you change the acquisitions process to streamline it? And as I was kind of speculating with him about using things like other transaction authority to make things faster and eliminating some of the people from the process, right? Because there are a lot of people in the government. Like on the government side, you've got 100 people that can say no, but there is no singular person that can say yes. Like it is a series of yeses that have to happen, from funding people to requirements people to PEOs. And I mean, contracting, it's really a web, a web of bureaucracy. But, I finally came to, I'm like, God, if you really wanted to change this, you might shit can the whole federal acquisitions regulations and just start from scratch. And that's extreme, and that's not going to happen. But I think I take a conservative approach with, hey, what's going to happen to these big contract vehicles? I say plan on them being there until we know that they're not. And it's the same thing. We got to, if you're in business or you're working for a company selling to the government, we have to take the viewpoint of what these mechanisms are in place. They've been in place for a while. Acquisitions reform has happened during every administration to some degree. And we still have GWACs, right? So I think that they're going to still be there. I think it would be too difficult to get rid of them, at least right away. If they're going to get rid of them, I think we're going to have a big heads up and a lot of time to figure out whatever they're pivoting to. Do we also need to get an SBA certification to start with GSA? No, you don't need an SBA certification to start with GSA. Now, I think there are certain, by the way, I'm not like the GSA expert. I bring those experts in to talk about this, but I've used it a lot. I've sold with it a lot of software, almost exclusively using GSA from this side of things. On the government side, I did work with GSA, but GSA was not my preferred choice of making purchases, and I didn't have to use the schedules, but I certainly I know enough about it to get into trouble. An SBA certification, right, is different. You need to be registered. If I've read the checklist correctly, you need to be registered. I don't even need to read the checklist. You need to be registered in SAM.gov. That's different than having a certification. So you can get certified, right, as like a woman-owned small business, an 8A, SDVOSB, and there's a few others, HubZone. Those are the big four. But I don't think you need that to be, you don't, because there are plenty of companies that don't have any certifications that are on the GSA schedules. That is a fact. So hopefully that answers your question. It may, by the way, certification may open you up to be eligible for a certain type of schedule because they have different contracts. So that you might want to look into. All right. I'm getting an error here. I don't know if you guys are still able to post. I'm just going to write test in there and see if that goes out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about GSA and what, just beyond getting GSA, how does the government actually buy through GSA? There's lots of different mechanisms that the government uses GSA for, right? But I think for the purpose of this video, just know that if the government's going to buy something through GSA, you might not even see it on SAM.gov, right? So the GSA schedule holders, like once you have the schedule, you might get a notification from GSA saying, hey, for what you're approved to sell through GSA, like there's a bid here and you can bid on that. There are platforms that allow you to see some of the things coming through GSA. So how many of you guys knew that? Does anybody on the call here or on the live session know what platforms I can use to see GSA opportunities if I don't have a GSA schedule? Anyone? Take a guess. I'm going to bring it up right here. Oh, it's not coming up where you guys are guessing. All right. And the platform that I was thinking of is actually called Govly. So this is a paid for platform. I've actually interviewed the Govly guys on, and they have a really interesting business model. Their business model, their website just went berserk. So that's why I'm not putting it on the screen right now. But their business model is they have companies that have not just, by the way, GSA, because someone was asking about NASA Soup. They have schedule holders that come on. Oh, here we go. Let's share the screen and take a look at it. All right. So Govly essentially partners with companies that have things like a GSA schedule, NASA Soup, different things like that. And then as a small business, you can come in and they partner you with those larger businesses. But then what I can do is I could come in here if I had my account with them, and I could search for different opportunities through contract vehicles. So there's a drop down. I've used this. So there's a drop down in here, and I could choose to schedule. Hey, let's look at the NASA Soup opportunities. Let's look at the GSA opportunities. And then you would partner with the company that had the actual schedule, and then you could place a bid on it. So that's another interesting way of kind of getting around not having GSA or one of the big contract vehicles. But keep in mind that you would not be the prime, right? Because you have to have one of those vehicles if you want to be the prime on that contract. So there's nothing wrong with subcontracting, but you just got to be prepared for that. So it's not, something like this is going to set you up to subcontract. And by the way, like, different companies have different subcontracting and prime opportunities usually in their background. So you'll see a nice healthy mix of both often. So it just depends, right? Depends on what your business model is going to be. Let's see here. All right. You guys still hear me okay? Check. I'm going to put the Govly website into the chat here so you guys can check it out if you want to. All right. And the next thing that I want to talk about is acquisitions forecasts. If anybody has a preferred acquisitions forecast, way of reviewing these, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to bring up mine, what I kind of look at right now. So if I'm just trying to take a look at a acquisitions forecast for any agency, and here's the problem. They are disjointed, meaning I think what you're getting at is some agencies do a really good job of keeping acquisitions forecasts up to date, and some of them do not, right? And an acquisitions forecast is more of a, hey, we have an opportunity that's coming up. And the way that I use that, remember, meetings win contracts with the government. There is somebody on the other side of SAM.gov. There's somebody on the other side of these OTAs. There's somebody on the other side of these acquisitions forecasts. And we want to find that person, get a meeting. And in government acquisitions, as long as we're in that market research phase, right? As long as we're before the RFP, then we have an opportunity to do that. You're not always going to get a meeting. You're not always going to get a phone call. But depending on how diligent you are, at least it's legal to do so. And I can tell you that, the really successful contractors, when I was on the government side, when I was on the Air Force side, they knew where my office was and they were routinely in it or trying to get into it. So I would highly recommend it. Sam, oh yeah, no problem. No problem. Let's see here. And Brett, LNC, I'm not sure what you mean by LNC, Brett. What does that stand for? Okay. Now, what I've just done is I have set up acquisitions forecasts in my system here. And you can just type it into your browser. Just type acquisitions forecast. You'd be surprised. Like, that's just how I would find a lot of things. Even just coming out of the government side of this and trying to figure out, all right, where am I going to find these different opportunities so I can get a little bit of an advantage. So you see here, here's my browser. I've got acquisitions.gov pulled up, which we have that in GovClose. We talked about that a lot, actually. So here we go. This is giving me a lot of different links for acquisitions forecast. Now I can tell you, some of these links are going to be good, and some of these links are not going to be good, right? So let's click on this one. Okay, so this is Office of Acquisitions Management, I think Department of Commerce, current procurement forecast. It says it's updated weekly. So I'm always going to be prepared to be disappointed. Oh, wait a minute. All right. Hold on. Can I share my screen with you here without showing you how cluttered my desktop is? Hold on. That's just you guys got to see. What I'm trying to do is move over. There's I just downloaded a spreadsheet from the Department of Commerce. Here it is. Here's their acquisitions forecast. Oh, Brett, loud and clear. Yep. Gotcha, buddy. So here's the acquisitions forecast. Let's zoom in. You're probably like, I can't read that, Rick. I gotcha. All right. All right. So it's giving me a lot of in here. It's giving me the office in the Department of Commerce. Another service was in the Department of Commerce. That's interesting. NOAA, I should know that because I had a client that sold to NOAA all the time. Title, the Mars Business Project. Let's see, is it going to tell me anything else? Description. Okay, this is talking about a multi-year software maintenance for the SAP Business Object Software used to support NOAA's management analysis. Okay, then it's giving me a NAICS code, soybean farming. All right. Again, I've been shocked at some. I shouldn't be shocked anymore when I see like what we're actually buying, and I know they're trying to minimize what the government's spending on right now, and we do need to cut down on our spending. There's a lot of wasteful spending, but there's also, it's complicated, right? So a lot of these things, there are third order, fourth order effects to getting rid of some of these programs. So here, the software tool has something to do with soybean farming. It's got my place of performance, type of award. And okay, so here we go. So this is good, right? It's giving us an estimated value range. Why is this important? So this is important if I'm managing a pipeline. If you're selling to the government, here's what I want to know. And I've shown you guys the pipeline we built at GovClose, but I want to know how much my pipeline is worth. I want to know how many opportunities are in my pipeline, and I want to know my close rate. And that's going to give me an idea of how strong my position is with the government. Anything can change when you're building a pipeline of leads selling to the government. So I need to have a lot of different opportunities because I can move some of them up depending on the deal I offer the government. Some of them are going to get delayed because of what? Because we have a new administration, because just funding gets delayed normally just through the acquisitions process. So we need to be prepared for that. That's why that's why it's really important to understand what we think the estimated value range is going to be. I usually estimate low at the beginning of my pipeline. And then as I do things like get meetings with the government and understand if there's an incumbent, stuff like that, then will increase to the value that I really think it's going to be at. Okay, so look at this. It's going to tell me, is it a recompete? I just mentioned incumbent. This is important, right? This is telling us a lot of information. Recompete, or is it going to be a new requirement, right? It's going to be a recompete. It was competed before. This is a new requirement, and the competition strategy is sole source. That's interesting. So I would want to investigate that a little bit further, depending on what I was selling and what that is. If it has an anticipated set-aside type, oh, look at this. Look at this. This is exactly what you need to know. Point of contact name, right? So now this is giving me the actual email address of the person that I can reach out to. And depending on when that is, let's just take a look at when some of these awards are coming. Okay, look. So I mentioned, didn't it say on the website, guys, that that this was updated weekly? I could have sworn it did. right? Look at these dates. Look at these years. 23, 23, 24. Unless this is just, no, these are new requirements, right? So, yeah, so I would want this spreadsheet. I love this spreadsheet. I love everything about this spreadsheet, except the fact that it hasn't been updated since 2024, right? In fact, it was probably updated in 2022 or 2023. And, so some of these things in 2024 may not have been awarded just due to like delays and whatnot. But anyway, this is like what a standard one would look like. But I don't sell to the Department of Commerce. I sell to another agency, right? So that's what's nice about this is you can have multiple agencies on here. If yours isn't, or you don't see something updated, again, use Google and you could put the agency you sell to in the small business office. You would be surprised how often you can find the exact thing you're looking for, not through a website like this, but just through Googling, going to the main page of the agency and small business. And they're going to have things like acquisitions forecasts and ways to meet with the small business office in there. And you can do that. My son's going to the doctor. Okay, so let's see here. Department of Interior. I guess it's cherry blossom season in DC. Anybody out there that's in DC? Let's see here. And if I go to, yeah, this just took me to like their regular website, it looks like. Bureau of Affairs. I might have to go to one of these and then the small business office in order to actually pull the acquisitions forecast. All right, and we're going to do 1 second here.
First, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I had my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal, is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able to provide value across different industries because the skill set that I learned through the course, I was able to apply my own experience.
GovClose came and it was a no-brainer. I wanted some secret sauce.
This has allowed me to live in Germany. It's a little hazy today, but we can do that. You see?
Oh yeah, dude, that's beautiful.
The content, the training, it's invaluable. It's written.
And Deb, what motivated you to join the GovClose certification program?
Wow. Well,
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me? Technical issue. I had to get my son his video game on his way to his doctor's office. Anyway, not any more about me. Let's see here. What's happening with Treasury DHS? MO killing everybody's contracts. Okay, I don't know what that's all about. Sam, very cool. Yep, no, glad you can hear me. All right, so we were just looking at acquisitions forecasts. We were taking a look at some of the links were good, and they gave us a spreadsheet with a lot of different information on there. And some of the links took us just to like their website. Spreadsheet, the one we did find, didn't really give us much, right? I mean, it gave us a good spreadsheet with like 2-year-old dates on there. So we just need, that's the key. We just need something that is a little bit more current. And you know what? I think I actually probably clicked on the wrong link there. Let's take a look at, I just clicked on the acquisitions forecast for Department of Energy. And this one breaks it down here, DOE. By the way, here, I'll give you guys a link to this as well. Hopefully that makes it to all the platforms. And Department of Energy, what I like about this is it's now going to give me the different labs, right? So it's got a bunch of them on here. Lawrence Livermore, let's here. I used to sell to them a little bit. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so this wants me to fill out a supplier form here, which I would do, you know, if I was a small business looking to get into that. This is the original one. Yeah, let's try this again. Let's try the DoD. I can only imagine. Let's go. Army, Navy, Air Force. Air Force, nothing. I have to go to the Air Force site. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Army Corps of Engineers, I'm continually impressed with, by the way, as far as selling to them, the different offices that they have, the ability I have to schedule meetings with them. So here we go. Department of Energy. Did I just click on the, yeah, so it's making me go to their main website here. But here, I can walk you through like what I do when I come to if I'm doing research, I'm trying to find things like acquisitions forecasts, opportunities, because I'm always trying to find that opportunity before anybody else does. Right, here we go. Upcoming contract opportunities. And what is this telling me? By the way, there's different Army Corps of Engineers offices like around the country. A lot of them have their own websites you can go to. Forecasted contract opportunities. Let's see here. It's not current projects, top 5 of the past procurements. I want that. I want a spreadsheet. Where is my spreadsheet of contract opportunities? Oh, wait. Here we go. Upcoming. A list of, oh, that's a list of acronyms. I don't need a list of acronyms. I know too many acronyms as it is. Here, upcoming contract. How do I find? So it's telling me here, as always, if you have any questions on any of the planned procurements. Okay, so now it's saying review these. Oh, I see. It says it's pending. Removed pending review. Okay, so but at least, hey, that's something that I can know is pending, and it's something that's coming up. Let's go back and take a look at, so, you know, that was upcoming contract opportunities. You can join their contractor database. They have a list of subcontracting opportunities, apparently. Or is this just going to tell me how to do it? They're not all going to be winners. Contracting in Puerto Rico. I was just in Puerto Rico. Here we go. They got the contract database that you can actually engage with. I think what I would do here is I would go from this and start looking at how to, I would look at the individual offices in the states. Yeah, so that wasn't very helpful. Again, so you just have to kind of go through these and see, you know, which ones actually have an updated forecast or not. Again, you can also go to the small business websites that are associated with them. Oh, this is interesting. So here it looks like I can search through it. All right, we get a bunch of FY. So these are forecasts with estimated value. Question is, are any of them current? So we're in fiscal year 25 right now, right? Okay. Let's apply that. All right, here we go. Bang. That's awesome. All right, so it took us a few minutes, but now we've got an acquisitions forecast with Department of Transportation. And they're also, all the agencies are supposed to have these updated, and you can ask for them also. So I have the agency, competition type, estimated value, pretty broad, which I would expect it to be. Procurement category, engineering services, FY25, first quarter, full detail. So first quarter FY25, we're past it, right? But this could have slipped, right? Because first quarter is going to be October, November, December, January, February, March. Man, we're in April. We're in the third quarter already of FY25. That is nuts. Let's see. And I could probably scope this out by quarter too. Fiscal year, here we go. Let's go third quarter. Let's go third quarter. See if we can find anything here. There we go. So here's one, 700,000 to 2 million. It's a small business opportunity, third quarter. Let's see what the details look like here. Okay, good. So it's giving me at least the name, the email where I can contact the contracting office. So guesses as to what the next steps are with this. Well, the next step that I would take on this is I would be reaching out to the contracting office and trying to set up a meeting of some sort. So that is what I would be doing. By the way, here's, can I go backwards? There we go. Just in case you guys want it, I'm going to give you guys, flick the link in here for you too. Excellent. All right, very cool. So I did talk a little bit about this in our last coaching call as well. Acquisitions forecast, other transaction authority, other ways to find opportunities that are not going to be on SAM.gov. Let's take a look at that. All right, can you guys see it? Just says Zoom right now. Anyone?
Just see the Zoom.
Zoom.
Okay. So I'm just typing in OTA consortiums into Google search. This is something I recommend you guys do if you're looking to learn more about OTA in the meantime. This is going to list the different consortiums, which are businesses essentially, that the government has hired to. Each one of these is going to have a topic, and there's going to be a round of businesses within the consortium itself. You can apply, usually it's not even an application, but a lot of times you do have to spend $250, $500 to get in, and they'll have topics, and there's a lot of them, right? This one's automotive. I mentioned DIU earlier. Here's one from maritime sustainment. And most of these consortiums actually also have a really good like explanation. So here it's going to tell you about the tech areas that this is maritime related, right? There's going to be a lot of broad topics, but it will, if I click on OTA, it'll tell me it's good. It'll go through, hey, what's other transaction authority? That's actually a really good place to start because they're going to boil it down for you so you have an understanding. And then a lot of these, you'll be able to see the opportunities, even if you're not a member. So you can see here, this one looks like there's a lot of them actually. So they're looking for a data processing unit, multi-class static. But so all of these opportunities that are in here, as long as you're a member of the consortium, you could go after them. And again, with this, just like, you guys, I just lost my video here. This, just like with regular government contracting, we want to talk to the government. We want to talk to, and they'll set you up. These consortiums should be setting you up with, like, if you want to talk to the government POCs, they should be able to arrange that. So just like with Sources Sought, we want to get meetings with the people that are in charge of these things that know more about it. And that's going to give you and your clients a better chance of winning those. So a lot more will be coming on OTA. So I know I spent a little bit of time on this here. Let's do this. First of all, if you have a question, drop it in the chat. And until then, I'll just start calling on people. So let's see, GP, you're one of the first people I saw on here. So how are you doing today?
Good. And I know I sent you my roadmap. It was pretty, it was a good exercise. I also have questions. I mean, obviously, my concern is I think that with the GSA, another thing, and I don't know if this is the same thing or not, but the federal supply schedule, I feel like I keep hearing that now because I've been talking to some people here that's involved in the VA. Like I talked to, obviously I'm in the medical side, trying to get in that field. And so I did talk to a medical rep that's in the VA, and she said one of the big things is to really get to know that FSS. I was like, what is that?
Yeah. So often when people talk about GSA is confusing, and I know it's confusing, and I was confused by it even when I was in an acquisition shop, at least until towards the end. So GSA, the first thing is GSA is a federal agency, right? And GSA is a federal agency that was originally put together to centralize procurement for all the other federal agencies, right? So this happened like in the 40s or 50s, I think, in the end of World War II era, somewhere around there. Because this has been going on forever, like acquisition reform, how do we do things smarter, better, faster, cheaper, and just an increasing amount of policy and bureaucracy. So GSA is created to centralize procurement, but we realized really quickly that there's no way that they could actually do the buying for all these agencies because GSA is a middleman, right? So that's what GSA is. They are a middleman between the agency that actually has the need and the company that would actually be doing the selling. So, and here's the other thing, the federal agencies, the people doing the buying, they don't want that middleman in there. A lot of them don't. I didn't. I never used them. I didn't use them once because I wanted to control the purchase, right? It's about control. And I mean, even just on a rabbit trail here, even without GSA, I feel like there's 30 middlemen on the government side between the actual user and the buyer. So GSA ended up being used in a limited way. And so GSA has, I call them contract vehicles. They're like contract vehicles. They are, and the schedules are the same thing, right? So the schedules, and you'll hear GSA schedule all the time. What they're referring to is a contract vehicle that a company can apply to be on. Okay. And what that looks like is, by the way, GSA has tons of different contract vehicles. They have, I don't know the names of all of them, right? A lot of times they're just referred to as the schedules. And then there's others, probably hundreds of others. But if you have, let's say they have one particular schedule for administrative services, right? And that's the company you have or your client has that. Well, then you can apply to be on the GSA schedule that sells those services. But that application, so that could take a year for you to get through that process because they're going to go through, first of all, they want you to be in business for a couple of years. There's a waiver if you're not. I mean, there's a waiver for everything, but there's a bunch of other like requirements, right? But they are going to look over all of your pricing, just like if you were submitting a proposal to the government. And all of that pricing, by the time you get to the end of it, is going to be published. So everyone has a GSA schedule. I can see what their labor rates are. I can see and so can you. If they're selling software, how much are the software licenses? All published. Now, what ends up happening is when you're on those schedules, GSA, if GSA is handling the buying, those opportunities don't necessarily go through SAM.gov, right? So if GSA is doing the buying for administrative services or software licenses for an Air Force office, well, the only people that might see that if it's going to be competed is the schedule holders, right? So maybe there's 200 people on this particular government contract. They've all already applied to be on it, which really means they've competed. All right. So that was a little bit from one of our last coaching calls within GovClose. We go very much in depth. Every Friday, actually, we have a coaching call at 1:45. And then for those that get to a certain point in the program, they get through our certification, they go into the war room. Now, a lot of people, there's two major paths. People going through GovClose, they are either starting a consulting business, helping companies sell to the government. They might already have a company that does that, or they're just getting started, or they are looking to work as a sales executive for a company. And then the third is company sales teams will get trained through there. So anyway, that's just a little bit about that. You can learn more about what happens within GovClose and what we're teaching there. If you want to, you can check out our syllabus, which I've put in the comments, which you should be able to see. I don't know if you're going to see it on LinkedIn or not, but if it doesn't post on LinkedIn, I will get it out to you guys as well. And you can see where to find it right there. Now, I think the best way, and we've talked about a lot of different platforms. I've got more to show you if you want to see them, but the best way to find opportunities that aren't posted anywhere is by talking to the government. many times, like foot stomping constantly. Meetings win contracts. We have to meet with the government. We have to talk to them. We have to talk to the people, especially if you're already on contract and you're selling to them. That is how you will find out about most of your opportunities. If the program manager you're already working with is, and you have to ask them because they're busy. If you ask them like, hey, is there something coming up that we could potentially work on? There's a couple things that could happen there. They could say no, right? Sure. They could say yes, right, and tell you about, hey, what they think is going to happen. By the way, no's usually turn into yeses because you're reminding them that you're there. 3 months later, they're like, hey, by the way, I need 3 more software licenses, or hey, I need someone to come in and troubleshoot a problem that we're having. But number 3, and this is one that gets lost on a lot of people, is that people in the government hang out with other people in the government. And if you're talking with government contracting and acquisitions officers, guess what? They hang out with other government contracting and acquisitions officers, right? So, I'd have companies all the time come and ask me, hey, Rick, who is there anybody that that could be working on or might need a software management tool or may need, landscaping services? So I know the guys that are working over in civil engineering, and I would know the guys that, do software. And I did a lot of software stuff too, but, everyone does stuff like that. So I would give them ideas, warm introductions, but you have to ask. If you're not asking, then you're really leaving not just a lot on the table, but there's a big difference between getting a warm lead from a government program manager, contracting officer, versus just finding something in an acquisitions forecast, right? So what I showed you guys with acquisitions forecasts, that requires a lot of work, right? That requires a lot of work, taking it from finding it in the AC forecast to turning that into a closed contract for your business or for the company that you work for or for your client. That is sometimes a years-long process. And I shouldn't say sometimes, because it is often a years-long process or more. It might be multi-year process, depending on how big that contract is. But now if I'm working with the government, I'm talking to their office, that's where I can make the faster, if you can use fast in government contracts in the exact same statement. That's where I can make something happen, right? So if I want to, I could turn around like maybe software licenses purchased through GSA. That's something I could turn around in 45 days, 30 days. They want to do it. They have the money. We have a contract already. We can make that type of thing happen, right? But it's going from like sources sought to solicitation to going on contract. It's even with the OTAs, right? We have to find them. It's going to be faster, right? But 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. I mean, faster, but still is going to take a little bit of time. So we've covered today so far other transaction authority, where to find other transaction authority opportunities. We talked a little bit about some of the videos that I've done, and I still need to drop some links in here for you guys so you can get to those. But you can go to our YouTube channel if you're not already there and see, the interviews I've done on OTA with Chelsea, some of the stuff on GSA, some of the stuff that's coming up on GSA that you're definitely going to need to know. And then just now talking with the government, like setting up a meeting, right? And we can do that, but we want to make sure that we are ahead of the solicitation. It's going to be harder for you to set up a meeting with the government if the solicitation's out, right? Like, hey, RFPs drop. Government, for the most part, it's going to be very hesitant to sit down with you. But if we get them before that, acquisitions forecast, other videos that I have on finding sources sought. We're not going to get into that today. OTAs, we saw that. They give you the TPOC there. Even things like SBIRs, right? There's a window if you're looking for SBIR contracts where you can actually talk with the technical point of contact, usually. And so this is where you're going to start making things happen, right? You might find out, by the way, that and I'm mentioning this because this is a good way to get a meeting. These are good things to look at to set up the meeting with the government. The SBIR TPOC that SBIR might not be for your company, right? It might not be right for you, but guess what? You can ask, hey, is there something else? Is there something else I could be looking at? I had an experience with Defense Innovation Unit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that at all. I can bring it up on the screen. There are other transaction authority, just like we talked about in the beginning here. And what happened with them is we got to the end of the process with one of these opportunities that was advertised. Other transaction authority, I had to write, I wrote a 3-page white paper, which covered how we could potentially solve one of their problems. And we actually, they're like, hey, this is great. Come on out to Silicon Valley. So we flew out there. We briefed the DIU team out there. Now, at the end of that, we weren't the right fit. There was another company that was a little bit further ahead of the one I was working with. But what they said to me was, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. They're like, hey, but part of the reason we brought you in is there's something else that's going to be coming up through DIU that we think you are perfect for, right? That's huge, right? So now they know me. I've briefed them. I've literally been to their office. I've briefed them. They know the technology. They think we're, hey, Jerry, or Gary, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, so they know us, and now they're providing me with that hot lead, right? With that warm lead that we can then turn into a contract. With DIU, since I'm on here, how does this work? I really love DIU. You submit everything through here. There's a little bit about, you can go onto the website, learn a little bit about them. How do you work with them? They have one open solicitation. This is kind of common for DIU. Sometimes I see 2 or 3. So that's why you really need a list of these consortiums. And DIU is not a consortium. It's an office that was set up by the Air Force, I don't know, 2015, 2016. But DIU is great, by the way. And there's other websites. So you want to develop a list of these places that you're going to that is not, that's not SAM.gov, right? Where we can find things that will apply to us. Now, what would I do with it? I just want to take a look here and show you like what this looks like. So for instance, their open solicitation is for this Maritime Innovation Challenge, Undersea Communications Autonomy. Now, this might have nothing to do with what your business does, right? And that's fine. But when you go in, it's going to give you more information, right? It's going to give you the timeline, the background. They have a very standardized way of applying for these. So since it's open, I would imagine that there's a due date that is ahead of us and not behind us. And you can see it's telling you right in here. The details matter, folks. So considerations, they're saying successful proposals need to tackle one or more of the above desired capabilities. Another thing to think about if you're looking through something like this, like maybe I saw maritime, right? And initially you might think, all right, well, my business or my client doesn't necessarily focus on that. But I bet if I start taking a look at the desired capability effects, which are where? Capabilities, here they are. Near real-time communications, undersea, UVs, command and control system, battle management system. So now we're getting into some specifics that you might be involved with. You might be involved with command and control. You might be involved with some of these other type of systems, a system that can allocate the right asset to the right task in a dynamic and complex environment. That's got a lot packed into it. And here's one just for bandwidth utilization and effective range. You might not have anything to do with maritime, but maybe you work with the technology that has something to do with bandwidth utilization, right? And the different frequencies within the electromagnetic spectrum. So lots here. And then there's going to be a place that talks about the actual submission process. Looks like they have some webinars here. That's pretty cool. Link to the slides. Oh, great. So we finally have something that's ahead of us, 3 April. By the way, like with all the talks out there about, federal spending going down, I can tell you this. I have a video coming out this Friday that I would love for you guys to check out. Vice President Vance addressed the Marine Corps over the weekend and talked about $1 trillion being invested in the Department of Defense. We know that this administration is going to invest more in the Department of Defense. There's going to be a lot, right? So for you guys out there that are either concerned about some of the agencies that have been really decimated or what you're hearing, I can tell you there's going to be a lot of funding going into the manufacturing base for Department of Defense And that covers a lot. It covers a lot of different things. And we just need to be prepared for it, right? How are they going to be doing this buying? Is GSA going to be part of it? Is things like DIU and OTA going to be part of it, right? This is telling me that, okay, so there's a place for submitting questions. This is great. It's telling me the evaluation criteria, right? So that's how I'm going to be evaluated. That's how, that's how I wrote a submission that got us to the final round, because I knew how we were going to be evaluated and I wrote to that. It's also how I know if I don't want to submit something, because I don't want to waste their time. And, you don't want to waste your time. How's IP? It talks about IP, talks about contracting, terms and conditions, costs. Yeah, so there's a lot in here. So we won't go through all of it. Oh, I guess I could just click submit my solicitation right there. And okay, well, I'm not going to keep going down here. I'm going to bore you guys to death. But anyway, all right, so let's get off of this screen. Oh, I did want to flick through a couple others. This is AFWorks, so you guys might want to also add that to your list. Okay, so we were just looking at DIU. I would put that in there. Here's AFWorks. They have different challenges. They have, look, there's so many different ways, different programs that the government's putting together. I think we're just going to see a lot more of these this year, ways of streamlining how the government is going to be buying. Yeah, and one of my clients went through AFWorks challenge and did really, really well. They have a lot of different efforts, so you'll just have to go to the website and check and see if there's anything for you. DIU, oh yeah, Vulcan. This one you'll have to log into, but this is cool because this is usually spec ops, like special forces related, and I think across the services. And you can actually hang a capability statement in here for your company that you can tailor to what they're looking for, what the government's looking for, what the military is looking for, special ops guys are, and what they're looking for changes. And if you have something in there, because I remember we put in a capability statement and were then contacted later about a different opportunity, because they can go in there and they can review, they can look for the technologies they need. So again, I don't want to say it's all tech. A lot of it is centered towards innovation. And I mean, it even says here, innovation scouting, right? So you got to think about what is your company doing? Which one of these resources is going to be the best place for you to be spending your time going forward? And because you can't chase everything and you shouldn't chase everything. I only want to take a look at efforts that are going to potentially pan out for me as I'm, allocating my day. So lead generation, meetings and relationships, and then maybe more formal engagement if I'm briefing, if I have to work on a proposal, if I have to do something like that. Let's see here. What else have we talked about? AFWorks we looked at. We looked at the acquisitions forecasts. Well, let me open it up right now if anybody wants to ask questions. Well, I am taking this off the screen here. Oh, that's an older one. Can you see subcontracts in USA Spending? There is a column for that, but you're not going to see all of the subcontracts. You can award a company a contract. So I could be Ricky Howard and Associates could be a prime contractor, and I could have no listed subs in USA Spending, but I could have an army of subcontractors helping me get through the process. So that's just something to know. All right. The last thing that I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm just going to show you the process that I take some of these through once I have found one of these leads. I think that will help. And just to give you an idea, because when I'm looking at opportunities for the federal government, I am not looking at taking them through steps that I might see in something like Salesforce, if that makes sense, right? So I mean, and again, everybody does it a little bit different. You know, I don't want to have another transaction authority opportunity that's due for 3 weeks in a system that, you know, says, hey, this is a low level lead, a medium level, high level. You know, a lot of the CRMs and whatnot will have, you know, 4 buckets that you can put your lead into. What I want to know the exact steps, right, that I'm going to have to go through in order to close a contract. This is just a little bit about, you know, when I mentioned I want to know my pipeline total, right? I want to know my close rate. You know, you could certainly, you know, some companies I've worked with have like a 30% or better close rate. You're being very picky when you're getting to that level. How many opportunities? What are they worth? Total pipeline value, close rate. Then I want to know with the opportunities themselves. This is a source of sought pipeline, but that's fine. Because again, whenever I take an opportunity, I'm walking it through a series of steps. And the steps are going to be specific to the strategy I'm using. If I'm going after other transaction authority, then that is going to have a different series of steps, say, than a source of sought, right? In this case, I identify it. That's going to be the same. I'm going through a go, no go process. Again, I want to know, you know, hey, do they have an incumbent? Maybe I take a little closer look at this, or maybe the government has sent me something and I went to an industry day and I can see that this opportunity doesn't make sense. Then I'm gonna shit can it, right? But sorry for swearing. And then but if not, I'm gonna move it on, right? Do I need teaming partners? Have I talked to the government point of contact? This is important. If you're running a sales team, it's incredibly important to have the steps that you expect your guys to go through with each of these. And when you do your weekly sales review, whether you're a solopreneur or you're running a sales team, or you're on the sales team, I want to know, have I gone through these steps? Because I don't want to forget one, right? If I've emailed the government, I'm usually asking to set up a meeting, right? So I may be able to, some of these steps may vary. Is it a source of sought response? Have I submitted it? Of course, I have all the relevant information that's going to be listed in the opportunity. Did I confirm receipt? I don't know for you guys out there, how many of you have submitted something to the government or sent an email to a government point of contact and got nothing in response? You can let me know in the comment if that's you. Happens to me all the time. And by the way, I was on the other side of it and did not respond a lot. But also, I noticed, and this is why this step is in here. When I was on the government side, I would get emails from, say, my wife, right? And she'd say, hey, why didn't you respond to my email? And her email never made it to me. And her email didn't make it to me for a few reasons. One reason is she had a link to her LinkedIn account in there. Sometimes she would have like a graphic embedded in her signature block. Companies would also not make it through because they had attachments. So every government system is different. And depending on what your credibility, your email score, there's so many factors. I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I will tell you this. If you don't get a response, especially if you're sending a source of sought or a proposal to the government, if they don't respond, you have to follow up and confirm receipt. You have to. I've had many clients that have been like, yeah, I sent it in 2 weeks ago, and but I haven't heard anything back. I'm like, no, they owe you a response. You sent them something, they owe you a response. And many times they never even received it. And that's why. So now what I might do is send them, if I haven't heard back from them, I might send them another email, no links, no attachments, nothing crazy in my signature block, and just ask them if they got it. And if I'm not getting anything, then I'm going to call them. I'm going to reach out to other people in the office. I'm always asking for a meeting, always. And that is the key to the whole thing. I should make this column green. But again, look, there's a lot of steps. This is the point. A lot of steps here. demo. I want to get in front of them, give them a demo brief. I'm confirming the solicitation date over and over again, right? So usually you are going to have to write a proposal. When does the proposal need to be submitted? Did the government receive it? Are you monitoring for the award decision? Did you win it? Did you lose it? If you lost it, if anyone's on here that submitted something to the government and didn't win, did you get a debrief from that? Did the government reach out to you and tell you why? They probably didn't. They might have given you a sentence. You need to request that, right? And that is a way of getting better at writing proposals. And, there are a lot of proposal writing courses out there. I hate writing proposals. But I will tell you this, every solicitation is different. So you want to get good at responding to the solicitations for the company that you work for, your company, technology that you're selling. And you're going to get better and better at that. And the way you get better is you want to get feedback from the government, find out why you didn't win. And if you did win, why did you win, right? Does it come down to price? Did they like your past performance? A lot going on there. So that is that. Guys, thanks for hopping on here today. Really appreciate that. I'm going to get rid of that right now. Again, anyone that's interested in learning more about what we're doing, head on over to govclose.com if you want to check that out. I'll also put something in the comments so you can check out the syllabus that we have and we run everybody through. I do have a couple questions here that look like popped up here towards the end. How can I join the Contract Academy, of course? So joining's pretty straightforward. I walk you through, guys, that right now. So here we go. All right, Dan, if you go to govclose.com, this is what you get. It says hire an expert. You have two options. It's pretty straightforward. Hire an expert or become an expert, right? If you click become an expert, you do have to click this watch now button and put your email address in. What that's going to do, though, is it's going to take you to a screen where it gives you a little bit of an overview of what's in GovClose. You can schedule an appointment right here. Basically, what would happen is you talk to one of our advisors. So, and by the way, there's some GovClose people in this conversation right now that I can see in here. So, you could schedule a time to talk with us here. I think it takes you through a block. If you have, we do have for military, federal workers, kind of sends them to one of our advisors, and then we have somebody that handles the rest of the folks. But the pricing is the same. We have a block in here. We have some of our recent graduates, not all of them. That needs to be updated, but we have some of them. We also have some testimonials that you can read through, Dan, if you're interested. Both written and in video format. Some of the companies that I've helped. It's an awesome program. People are getting jobs. We've got a 20-something-year-old that just got a job with Honeywell as an account executive. We have another one with a satellite company. We have people coming and interviewing. We have companies coming to us looking for people that have been trained. But for the most part, most of what our students are doing is going out there and winning consulting clients, just building their own businesses, which is really cool. We just got, in fact, 2 this past week. David, and he's on if he's not on the website, he will be soon, who just won his first consulting client. So they're going to pay him $4,000 a month. By the way, you can have like 5 or 6 of these consulting clients. We teach everyone how to do that. And he's going to be helping them with lead generation. We have another individual that just got certified. He won his first, Ernesto won his first consulting client. So he's going to be working with them, doing something similar, business development and strategy. There's a lot of different niches within government contracting. So it's, it's a really cool area to explore. And yeah, Dan, if you want to head on over there, would love to have you. All right, guys, I'm out of here. We'll see you next time.
The GovClose certification is generating tremendous results. So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, You've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely probably my best investment I've made all year.
It would be my second post on how a cold call landed a 9-figure government contract. My name's Gavin Tice.
So my name is Ethan Mart. When I was able to enroll into the GovClose program, it just exceeded all my expectations and really has provided a lot of valuable learnings and insights that I would not have found on my own.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community. Hi, I'm Deb Diller Harris.
If you want to learn how to sell to the government, if you want to learn how to start your own consulting business, if you want to learn the skills that you need to go land a 6-figure plus account executive job with big companies selling to the government, the certification program is for you. Head on over to govclose.com, check out our certification program, talk to the team. You won't regret it.